Good evening. Welcome to this special meeting of the Cleveland Heights University Heights City Schools Board of Education for the 30th of November, 2021. Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll, please?
Ms. Wright.
Here.
Mr. Bosch. Mr. Hines.
Here.
Ms. Serini.
Here.
Ms. Lewis.
Here. May I have a motion to consider the consent agenda, please?
I motion we consider the consent agenda.
Second.
Is there any discussion about the consent agenda, which is just a few personnel issues? Hearing none, may I, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Wright.
Yes.
Mr. Hines.
Yes.
Ms. Serini.
Yes.
Ms. Lewis.
Yes. Ms. Kirby, you have a report concerning the district calendar.
Yes, thank you and good evening. I would like to bring to the board a proposal to make some calendar changes to our calendar, school calendar for the 2021-2022 school year. I will ask Dr. Lombardo to walk us through the changes, but just for some opening comments, there are two things that we are seeking to accomplish with these proposed changes. One is that we want to add an additional professional learning day for our staff so that they can work around both the academic and social emotional learning needs and supports for students this year. And so you'll see in the proposal that we'll present the last day in January as a proposed additional professional development day. The second proposal will be to add Juneteenth as a holiday in our district in the month of June. So I'm going to share my screen, and then I will ask Dr. Lombardo just to walk us through all the particulars and the policy and all of the hours, because there is a process involved in this.
Good evening, everyone.
All right.
Dr. Lombardo.
Okay, I think we're ready.
Okay, great. So this first slide represents our board policy and administrative guidelines. Through the policy and administrative guidelines, before anything can be changed with our calendar, we have to have at least a 30-day prior board hearing to hear what the proposal is. No board action will need to be done tonight. This would be considered our board hearing. The superintendent shall consider the impact on all the different programs and other areas and private schools that we transport to. We must look at the scheduling needs of the community and non-public schools as well. We have done that through these two proposals. We'll post on the district website for the community to give input. So after tonight, Cathan will post this on the website, and the community can respond to the proposed changes. And the board action where you will have adoption of these changes, if you would choose, would be in January, that first board meeting in January. And the two calendar proposals, as Superintendent Kirby has stated, the original calendar that we approved has January 31st as a student day. The modified proposal is to make that a professional development day for staff where students would not be in session. And then June 19th, although June 19th wouldn't necessarily affect the school calendar, it would affect any kind of summer school or summer programming. We do want to make Juneteenth an official district holiday. As with any of our changes in the calendar, we have to look at the minimum hours required by the state for both the high school, or elementary, middle, and high school. You will see if we add January 31st as an additional PD day, that does take away one student day. And then we look at the calamity days available. So after we take away the additional day, we will have 6 calamity days still left for the high school. We would have 9 calamity days still left for the middle school. And based on hours, the elementary school would still have 23 days of calamity left for the rest of the year.
Thank you, Dr. Lombardo. So
You're
that
welcome.
concludes just the information we can, if you want to have questions or...
Yeah, I do have a question. So does that mean that we will still have the teacher independent workday on February 18th?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
Correct.
And this process is to allow us to make changes and follow all the rules.
Right.
Um, Juneteenth as an official district holiday will affect employees who are still on contract on the 19th of June. Not everybody, obviously.
Exactly.
Do you have an idea of what the proportion of employees that would be?
I do not have, I mean, I know our staff that works in the buildings is maybe about 500 or so. Dr. Lombardo, do you have a sense of how many would be impacted by Juneteenth? Because I know we don't have our full staff working during that time.
Right, so this, once this, if this does become approved, I would work with each of the unions to make this official holiday in the contract. So those that would be working during that time would receive that holiday pay, so to speak. And that would generally be those in the summer or those who have a 260-day contract. So as far as number-wise, that probably is roughly 400, 500 people, roughly out of our 1,000 staff would be affected by this.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I can't help but think that someone's going to look at the large number of available calamity days and hold against us that we didn't call calamity days before Thanksgiving. And I know that's a completely separate conversation from today's discussion. But the thing, of course, is that as we begin winter, we have no way of knowing what's going to happen with the weather.
Correct. We did call Calamity Day earlier in the year for a hot day, if you recall.
Yes, that's true.
We did do that. And we also, you know, it's difficult to kind of anticipate what's going to happen both with COVID, but also the weather too as well. So it is
Right.
important that we reserve those days.
For actual calamities.
Yeah.
Well, and we could have maybe had one today at Garrity with the water main break. I
Right.
mean, luckily it didn't affect us, but, I mean, it affected us, but not in a way where we had to close schools. But,
Yeah.
I mean, those things happen, and you want to have days for when they do. Because nobody wants to hear we're tacking on days at the end of the year, or we're taking away days that, you know, were planned to not be, because you don't have enough calamity days.
That's a good point, Jody, because there was a few years ago an incident where a water pipe burst. I think it was at Roxelle, and they ended up having to
Oh,
call
add
maybe
days.
3 or 4 calamity days because the building had to be shut down for the repair.
Right, and then there's the random heat, you know, where some furnace breaks or whatever. I mean, we've had it, you know, maybe not across the district, but by building, we've had different times where we've needed a calamity day.
Yeah, so,
I think we also need to be very, very cognizant of the fact that we have so many families for whom that would have created an incredible burden. And, you know, you put some families in the terrible position of missing a shift, missing a day of work, families who don't have unlimited days that they can use. And
Right.
it's a luxury for many families, but it's a real problem for many of our families as well. And, you know, we publish a calendar, and it seems to me that we really need to allow folks to be able to plan based on that calendar, which is why we have the process in place that we're, you know, discussing now. You know, we're putting this on the calendar, you know, and we have multiple readings so that if members of the community, if this presents a burden for members of the community, they can reach out and impact our decision in the interim. So
So there's no board action tonight, but in a month, we will vote to approve this, assuming there isn't a terrible outcry that this is very difficult.
That's right.
And we'll share that we've discussed this in this meeting, just so families have, 2 months' notice that this is something that we're considering to going through the state's process for calendar change.
Right. It's a Monday, and the Friday before is a regular school day, as far as I can tell, right? Yes.
Yes, and in fact, the timing is also aligned with the end of our MAP testing for the winter. And so it will afford all of our schools the opportunity to have a day to really take a step back to see where we are from an achievement perspective and do some very intentional planning there. Versus, sometimes, we're trying to kind of catch up, in teacher meetings or VLT meetings, and, there can be a lot of distractions and challenges there. So if we have a good, solid chunk of time for that real, planning and discussion and conversation.
Terrific.
And MAP tests are different than some of the other tests that we give insofar as we have results pretty much immediately.
Right.
And those results, since we have them immediately, those results of those tests can impact instruction pretty much immediately. If we have the time that this day would allow us to actually study those results.
Right. For sure.
Good. Any other comments or thoughts? Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion we adjourn.
I second.
Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Serini?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes. Thank you.
Good night.
All right, that was 14 minutes.